Hey, everybody, this is a day that I'm really mad. And I'm mad for reasons that are obvious. For 50 years, Roe v. Wade has been the law of the land. But it's quite clear to me that we've had a sword of Damocles collectively hanging over our heads because we never had passed law. We just had a court case. And now the unthinkable has happened. And I couldn't think, given that the city of Oakland passed a resolution to make itself a pro-choice sanctuary city, a better person to have on right now to talk about that than my longtime friend, Oakland at-large council member in Alameda County, supervisor candidate, Rebecca Kaplan, right here. Rebecca, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me. I'm mad. I'm absolutely livid, pissed off, mad at my party for not doing enough. But all that's in the past. We got to come together as one. Talk to me about, first of all, what are your thoughts about what just happened today?
Well, first of all, I want to be clear that the Supreme Court's action to wipe out reproductive freedom is devastating, but not surprising. And it is part of a broader pattern. They are attacking voting rights. They are attacking LGBT rights. They are attacking the very notion that there exist any rights other than the ones that the wealthy, slave-owning Christian white men agreed to hundreds of years ago. And so they are questioning the very notion of justice. And this attack on reproductive freedom is part of that. And it's part of why I'm so proud to stand with my colleagues in saying we are going to continue to fight here to make sure that reproductive health services are not only legal, which they still are in California, but that they are actually available. And that's part of why we're also lifting up the need to make sure that they are funded and protected so that we are fighting not only for laws, but for actual availability.
What do you say to those people who want to know what it means? Maybe they're in another state close by and they want to come into California and don't know where to go, and they see this for their first time. What does it mean that Oakland is a pro-choice sanctuary city as was passed last year?
Thank you. So what we are taking steps to insist on protecting reproductive health services in a few different ways. One is in terms of direct protection of clinics to make sure that they are not under attack or assault, as we have seen happen throughout the country. So there's the tangible physical protection. But I'm also asking that we increase funding for reproductive health services, because since the law does still stand in California, California still has pro-choice, still has abortion legal in the law. And so the concern in California is not that we would lose the law, but that the clinics would be so full that there wouldn't be actual availability for people. And so even while we denounce this outrageous action by the Supreme Court and how it turns back the clock on all of our rights, we're also pushing to make sure that groups like Planned Parenthood and local reproductive health clinics throughout the state get the funding and support that they need so that they can expand services, so that they can provide both for the needs of the local communities and for those who anticipatedly may be coming from out of state to access these vital needs. And so Santa Clara County Supervisor Cindy Chavez brought forward a budget action adding $3 million to the Santa Clara County budget for expanded reproductive health services. And I am saying that Alameda County needs to do the same thing, even as also at the Oakland level, we are seeking to make sure to protect our clinics that at the county, which is where healthcare and health clinics are funded and supported and run, that we need to make sure that we are expanding access to abortion, to contraception, and to all reproductive health care needs.
Hey, Councilmember, can I also throw in legal services, because I was looking for a legal spokesperson and I called the Young Lawyers for Reproductive Rights, and their line was out of business. And I don't know if it was a funding issue or what happened, but they were right there, on Google under Oakland lawyer abortion, right? And I thought, wow, so maybe we need to review resources for legal aid as well and maybe get money to them, you think?
Absolutely. Legal aid is essential, and legal aid is going to be particularly important in the states like Texas that have been passing these draconian laws. Again, in California, let's be clear, Abortion remains legal. No law has changed in California by this Supreme Court action. So Californians are safe from those legal actions in California, but we have seen these states like Texas where there's absolutely these outrageous legal pushes. And of course, there's the threat of Californians being prosecuted by other states for taking action for reproductive freedom. So yes, we need both to make sure the actual reproductive health care services are available. We know there is a worker shortage in all of healthcare right now, so I'm proposing to expand job training and funded job training for people to become healthcare workers, including for reproductive healthcare, and to make sure that we are funding groups like Planned Parenthood, who provide an entire array of services. By the way, these attacks on Planned Parenthood not only undermine access to abortion, they undermine access to contraception, to STD protection and prevention and treatment. I mean, there are so many ways that so many people suffer when these services and these providers are put under attack. And by the way, the same laws that the Supreme Court is turning back that have protected abortion rights also have been used to protect the right to contraception and to protect LGBT rights. And, you know, we just saw a violent assault on an LGBT pride event right here in our county in San Lorenzo. And so, you know, I think sometimes it's tempting to think that these fights are a thing of the past, but they are not. They are a thing of the present, and we need to continue to engage and to uplift the fight for voting rights, for racial justice, for LGBT equality, and for reproductive freedom.
You know, I, for one, have to admit, I thought they were in the past, but what, and the reason why I do, that's a whole litany of talk that's separate for another time, but right now we're here. And when, for you, was it clear that we changed? Because for me, it was the moment Donald Trump got elected, because I still believe that he had no business being president of the United States. But for you, when was it clear that we'd taken a wrong turn?
Well, I want to say that this fight is not new. In 1989, as an undergraduate at MIT, I worked with my fellow students to organize over 500 MIT students to go in buses all night to Washington, D.C., to the March on Washington for Women's Rights and Reproductive Freedom, which was being fought right then over Supreme Court nominees in the first Bush administration. And of course, the fights through the 60s and 70s, you know, before I was even born, that others fought before me. So this is a fight I've been engaged in my entire life, and that others before me have been engaged in their entire lives. And I think that there was a temptation to believe that these battles were won, but the battles are only won if we continue to win them. The right wing never stopped. They fought to take over the court. They fought to block nominees to the Supreme Court. They engaged in all kinds of gerrymandering to try to get the seats in the Senate. They engaged in abuse of the filibuster to block various court nominees over the years, right? So there has been a 40-year effort by the right wing to take over the Supreme Court to achieve this goal. And meanwhile, progressives needed to be fighting in every state and in every community. And that's part of why I'm saying we need to be not only fighting for laws, but for actual access. The fact that with the Hyde Amendment, the federal government decades ago took away reproductive freedom from those who are not wealthy, and the whole country didn't like march in the streets and shut it down over that. Right. And so the danger of letting people think they can chip away at rights and thinking it's not going to continue. Oh, if we just let them take away this piece, what? Then they'll be placated? Not true. So they took away reproductive freedom from women who didn't have money with the Hyde Amendment. And that should have been the warning to say stop. Just like right now, we have attacks on transgender people going on.
Yeah.
And some think, oh, well, if, you know, we're not going to fight for transgender people because that's not as such a huge number of people or some nonsense like that. But the moment you let fascism win against anyone, they will win against everyone. And
Yep.
so the right has been working to elect people to school boards and county boards of supervisors and boards that control directly healthcare, mental health, access to education. And so we need to be just as diligent in making sure that we are speaking up and protecting everyone. When the Proud Boys are attacking Drag Queen Story Hour, they are attacking all of us. When the right of women who don't have a lot of money to reproductive freedom, the right of everyone who might need access to abortion is threatened, then everyone's is threatened. And that should have been the warning. And then, the other sort of key point that I think didn't get the level of attention it deserved is when Al Gore won the presidential election. Let's be clear. Won.
He did.
Won
He won.
the presidential election, and a mob of angry, violent white men stormed the vote counting center in Florida to physically, through physical violence, block the counting of the votes, to block the completion of a full and fair election, which would have certified Al Gore as the winner had it gone through. The United States suffered a violent right-wing white supremacist coup in 2000 and didn't call it that, and didn't act like that's what happened. And the closest national leaders came to acknowledging it, one, let's be clear, the Congressional Black Caucus came to the floor and denounced it when those votes were being certified, and asked for a senator to stand up with them to challenge the vote, and not one senator would. And so, the Congressional Black Caucus spoke up and denounced it. And then Al Gore, in a movie some years later, in An Inconvenient Truth, has a line where he says, well, you win some, you lose some, and then there's that little known third category.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Where you win the election, but you don't get sworn in, right? So the fact that turned to fascism, that violent mob stopping the vote counting in 2000, we've never recovered from that or called it out for what it was at the major national level.
And, I was looking for something that I was going to pull up, but I'll just say it because I remember I had on last year Rick Gates, who was the Trump deputy campaign manager, who turned on him. And my mother was saying, why do you have him on? And to make a long story very short, because I had him on a total of 4 hours in segments, I got documents from him and learned about their efforts to try to fix social media by companies like Psy out of Israel, all right, going all the way back to 2014. I have the proposal that Psy out of Israel sent to them that they said they didn't buy, but they wanted $2 million to do it. My point is that's where QAnon came on from. And if you notice, when Trump came in, suddenly you heard about QAnon, and then you heard about Antifa, and then the minute Trump was gone, all that went away, right? You didn't hear about it. That was because of that whole effort. And my point is, how come we, and this goes back to, self-servingly, to be honest, when I was one of 128 bloggers, Democratic bloggers, invited to the convention for the first time in 2008, right? We were together then. I knew who the bloggers were in Virginia. Rebecca, they've killed the blogger sphere for Democrats, and the party did it, okay? Mm-hmm. And then they left it to mainstream media, which if you go to Twitter right now, you look at the videos, they're showing a right-wing view of the protests at the Supreme Court. Reuters, USA Today, Bloomberg, all right? They're all doing this. Mm-hmm. On Twitter, okay? Yep. And then we wonder why this stuff happens. When are we going to wake up, Rebecca? I've been yelling at this for years. People, my mother said, they're not paying attention. I said, I know they're not, but I built my business around this because we need to go back to this kind of media. But on the Democratic side, we've let them win. We know who the conservative bloggers are because they talk about them, right? But the liberal ones, us, it's like this.
Yep. Well, and we have to be willing to fight at every level. And this is something where the right wing has out-organized progressives on the local level, have built the bench at school board, at city council, at county supervisor, have taken over state legislatures. And on the progressive side, while there had been over the years some major successes at the national level, some of that then made people think they didn't have to focus on the local level. And so the anti-choice groups, the anti-reproductive freedom groups were recruiting, funding, and supporting candidates at the local level to build the bench. The pro-choice, pro-feminist organizations have a policy of not helping local candidates. A policy. Big groups that I respect. I'm saying groups like Emily's List, right?
Yeah.
Who I respect and have donated to and support. They don't help school board candidates or city council candidates. They're like, well, we want to focus on the large, right? And that's no disrespect to them. This is a systemic problem at many levels, right? And, county supervisor, for example, how many people talk about county supervisor races? County supervisors oversee the hospitals, public health, community health clinics, where the rubber really meets the road in terms of making sure that reproductive freedom is available, that we have culturally competent care and racial justice in the healthcare system, that we have LGBT rights, that we don't have trans people being mistreated in the healthcare system. Those things are controlled at counties. We have school boards that have so much influence and yet are often considered too small for attention, right? And have so much impact on the lives and future of our kids. So these types of races need the attention, but also the practical reality, making sure we're making contraception widely available, making sure that abortion training is offered, that that the next generation of healthcare providers have that education and training to provide abortion and other reproductive healthcare options, and making sure that we are building the bench and building for the long term, and understanding that the right wing worked for 40 years to take over the Supreme Court. So what are we going to do for 40 years?
Yeah, we have to do it in 3. We have to retake it. This is outrageous. And in fact, that leads to this question. Whatever happened to that argument about expanding the bench? Remember that?
Yes, we should expand the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has been at 9 people for many, many, many years. In fact, at the time, there were only 9 circuits. But now there are more circuits because the population has grown. And so actually there should now be, by that measure, 13 Supreme Court justices. And I think that would make a lot of sense given the growth in the nation, the growth in legal cases. And so, of course, that will require a vote of Congress. So we're going to have to keep pushing this recalcitrant Senate and hopefully elect some more good senators in November to help with that effort. But absolutely, we should expand the court.
Where are we the weakest link politically in California? What do we need to work on to make sure our house is in order? What do we need to do?
Some of what's been missing in California, which in many ways is a progressive leader, but some of what's been missing is making sure we're looking at issues of actual access for people of all income levels, that, making sure that reproductive freedom isn't just for elites, making sure that reproductive health clinics are funded and are in every neighborhood so that they're easily accessible. And I think California needs to invest in paid job training for the next generation of healthcare workers. We are having a crisis of care in terms of understaffing and a shortage of healthcare workers and what that does to the healthcare system. But many people who need good paying jobs don't have the money to go get the degree or the certification program. So we should have paid training programs so that local residents who don't have a lot of money can get paid either to go to nursing school, to get a certification as a pharmacy technician, or some of these other essential jobs for our healthcare system, including, but not only, but including in reproductive healthcare. That we should have paid training so that those who don't have money can get the training to get the jobs. And by the way, there's a lot of strong data that shows when you have a higher ratio of Black healthcare workers, you have better outcomes and lower disparities for Black patients. And so,
say that one more time.
So, as some of your viewers may already know, there's really troubling disparities in terms of medical outcomes for Black patients, in terms of higher infant mortality, higher maternal mortality, worsening cases of asthma and other issues like that. And some of it has to do with access to care, but there's been some really important studies that have come out that show when you have more Black doctors and more Black nurses, that disparity goes down significantly. And so making sure that we are providing that job recruitment and training is essential also.
Rebecca, hey, how much time do you got? You got to go, or you? How are we doing?
Yes, I do. But let me just say, I'm really glad to talk to you on this important day,
Yes.
and also that we acknowledge that this fight is not new, but that we are asked to renew our attention to building a world of justice, including at the local level, at the state level, to making sure we are making services accessible and funded. That includes addressing the racial disparities in healthcare, that includes addressing the gender disparities in healthcare, that includes job training, and making sure that we are fighting for reproductive freedom in our laws and in access in the community, and that we have to accept that it's not over. And I'll close with connecting this back to some Bible teaching. So one of the things that is in the scripture many, many times is you must remember the Exodus from Egypt. Over and over again, we're told, remember that you were oppressed in Egypt and God brought you out into liberation. And sometimes people wonder, like, why the obsessive, like, over and over emphasis of you need to retell the story of the Exodus. And some might say it is so that we honor our ancestors and respect what our ancestors went through. And certainly that's part of it, and that's important. But I think it's more than that. I think it's also so that we should be reminded that the fight for freedom is not over. And telling stories of how people in prior generations overcame oppression is also to remind us to do it again ourselves.
And also, Pride Parade's coming up. That's right?
Yes, it is. This weekend.
Protection. Hey, folks, you get down there, be vigilant, use your eyes. You know, never thought I'd have to say that before. Boy, oh boy, what a crazy time. Hey, vote for this lady for Alameda County Supervisor. You know, vote for this lady, okay?
Thank you so much. You can learn more at supervisorkaplan.org. We will be on the November ballot, and we will be continuing to fight for justice and freedom and reproductive freedom as we still need to in the years ahead.
Yeah, I never thought I'd say that we have to fight, but we have to fight. We have to do more than fight. We have to be conniving, and we have to be together as one. Democrats have to stop attacking other Democrats because Republicans pull together better. We gotta pull together like we've never done before. Otherwise, these things are going to keep happening because we've been sniping each other, you know, for ridiculous stuff for too long. And we have to rebuild our media. We have to rebuild the blogosphere because this has gone on too long. And the ones that are out there that are blogs, you know what I'm saying, Rebecca.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Zenny, for being a part of that solution of rebuilding the blogosphere and grassroots media. And thank you, everyone, for watching. It's great to talk to you, Zenny, and we'll look forward to doing it again soon.
AB 464 to pay for this. We can do it. We got to get that going.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's fight. We got it. See ya. Okay. Hey, everybody. That's our great Oakland at-large councilmember, Rebecca Kaplan, who's kind enough to take a time out of her busy schedule. And I'm not kidding. It was busy to join me. But and remind us the importance of having Black people in the healthcare system. Okay, Black folks in the healthcare system cannot be underscored. Also, the importance that Oakland is a pro-choice sanctuary city. That means a lot. Pro-choice sanctuary city, which means we have the resources, and we will use the resources to protect you. Come from wherever state you come from. Okay, Orlando. Thanks a lot. That closes this. Subscribe to Zenny62. Bookmark OaklandNewsNowBlog.com. We got to rebuild the liberal blogosphere. See ya.